Hey guys, good evening. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. Welcome to IFOL Inspirations of Your Life. I'm so glad you've joined me. Whether you're here at 4:45 p.m., 4:45 a.m., 12 a.m., 12 noon, doesn't really matter, or 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. Thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate you and for you to take the time to actually, watch my show and gain all this great insight. So let's go ahead and start with our master topic of the week, which you guys know what that is. But in case you didn't know, by the way, do check out believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. And do follow me on TikTok as well. So our master topic of the week is red light moments, finding meaning in life stops and starts. And we're on series 3, which means we're in the third year. This is show 20. And the granular tonight is navigating red lights, insights for success in employment, series 3, third year, show 20, episode 6. So one of the big red lights for, employees and employers, to let you know, is this, and that is communication. When communication breaks down, oh boy, that's when there are all kinds of problems. People say, well, gee, I don't want to communicate. I'm an introvert. Well, I got news for you. If you're going to communicate with outside people, the outside world, you've got to make sure that you know how to communicate. That is so, how can I tell you how vital it is? That is so very, very vital. If you don't get that, then I feel then that's a very, very big problem and something you're going to definitely have to address as you move forward throughout your career. The next point I want to talk to you about is important when we think about communication. So communication's all around us, right? It's not just one place. Communication is all around us at all different times. And communication has to be done in a very delicate balance, a dichotomy of ways so that people understand what it is that's going on. And if they don't understand, well, then I would say there is a huge issue. And the huge issue is going to become a big problem later on. So that's a pretty cool thing. And I have to tell you, it's interesting how people, how can I say, how people, communicate when they need something, but then they stop when, they don't need something. Now, that doesn't sound crazy, does it? But it's the truth, guys. It's absolutely the truth. And I will tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, that making the choice to communicate early and understand communication is key to your success and will help you build many, 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 many years of very, very fruitful relationships, connections. So definitely communicate well. The second point I want to talk about tonight is lack of growth opportunities. So if you are either an employee or an employer, and there doesn't seem to be any type of, let's say, growth for you in what's going on, well, then I think you need to step up to the plate and figure out that maybe this company's not for you. Maybe this company is just not going to help you at all. I mean, that's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. That's ultimately the truth. And so sometimes, we don't want to leave because we're like, oh, I don't want to leave because I like it here. The people are nice. But if there's no growth opportunities, why the heck are you staying? Like, what's the point? And I know what you're probably saying to me. Well, John, it makes sense, but then it doesn't. Your life is important, right? And you have to realize that your time in life is precious. You can never get time back. So you have to make sure that you use your time to the best extent for yourself. Now, is that being all selfish? Yes, it is. But let's face it, if you waste your time away, you're going to be not able to do things you want to do in life. And be like, oh my gosh, I ran out of time. How many times have you done this? Maybe you came home and a neighbor asked you for help on something. And before you know it, you spend all this extra time like, oh, gee, where'd this time go? I thought I had all night. And then you spend all this time, you're trying to be nice. And now you got to get things done. It's almost midnight. And you stay up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. You get up the next morning and you're so dead tired, right? So I think life has to be a two-way street. That's important. So what about employment gaps? So yeah, if you're an employer, what should you do if you see employment gaps in a resume? Do you say no? Well, it's a red flag, okay? You can obviously explain gaps, right? But you have to have a good reason. And so, employment gaps are periods during your professional career in which maybe you did not have formal employment. A gap can range in a length from a period of several months to a period of several years, and occurs because of voluntary, involuntary situations. But employers are very concerned about this. How to explain unemployment gaps is simple. Spend your time unemployed, preparing to return to work. Determine which jobs you need to include. Try to disguise small gaps by omitting the month. Use a resume style format that makes the gap less obvious, like don't put your dates down. This has been very, very common now, especially because a lot of people were discriminating. You don't put down your year of graduation, nothing like that. List the reason for longer employment gaps as its own job. Include experience gained during the gap when relevant. So I think a lot of people are concerned that if you have those gaps, maybe you're somebody who's a flake. Maybe you're somebody who's going to float around. And if you float around, well, that could be a really, really serious problem. And they figure that might happen with you. They are figuring that might happen with you. And so they don't want to waste bringing you on board and saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Right? What is going to happen? I think a lot of people want to do what they want to do, but then they're basically they're basically afraid because they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. And if that's the case, then how do you equate for that? I think you have to be upfront and say, look, if they say, look, there's a gap here. Well, the reason there was a gap is I broke my leg, or don't lie, or there was a situation in my family, or whatever it is. Maybe it was something else legitimate. Maybe the fact that you were at a job and maybe you got let go because they ran out of money and they didn't let you go. They let the whole department go. So these are important things to you, but don't lie to new employers, because that's just going to give you a bad rep right on day one. All right. Asking no questions. If you ask no questions in an interview, that is bad. Why? Well, it shows that you're not interested. You also risk being perceived as possibly unprepared or disorganized. You'll appear disinterested or lazy, like it doesn't really matter whether they hire you or not. You just kind of like whatever. The other 5 candidates that interviewed for the position all appeared excited and can almost guarantee it in this economy. The other people, maybe you're one of those, that just decides, well, I got to get something, but I don't really know if I can. Asking the right questions in a job interview can make the difference between getting hired and being rejected. Now, don't be a quiz station either. Ask intelligent questions, a few questions. Don't ask hundreds, because that'll appear as though you are not confident. What are some of the questions you should ask about? Well, I thought you never asked. Questions about the specific job. Is this a newly created position, or did somebody previously hold this position? Will anybody report to me, and who will I report to? What are some of the greatest challenges that this person will face? What type of training will I receive to help prepare for this role? Remember, it's not just the employer asking you questions. You can ask the employer questions too. The employee can ask questions. What type of person thrives in this company's culture? What type of growth and learning opportunities does the company offer? What is the typical career progression for somebody in this role? How do you envision this person progressing over the next 2 or 3 years? We know the salary starts at X. What could this conceivably go up to? What are my milestones, right? So there's tips and mistakes, obviously, you can make too. So don't ask extremely basic questions about the company, like spend 5 or 10 minutes and research the company. So you know a little bit about, like saying, so I know this is a research position. Why do you do research? Like, that's a dumb question. Don't emphasize the future too much. Look for the growth right now, okay? But you don't want to seem like you're only interested in taking a position so that you can advance beyond it within the first year. Save questions about salary, dress code, and other company policies for after you know the company wants to offer you the job. If you're talking with them and they're starting to lean into you and they're asking questions, maybe before you end, you can ask that, but don't lead on with, gee, how much are you going to pay me? It's important to avoid questions like this in the first interview. If most time you're going to get 2 interviews, usually. In the first, second interview, you're going to want to focus on questions about the work, the role. Something could be like, what got our company into making these kinds of widgets? I was just curious, how did this start? Maybe you can say, I did some research on the company and I found that such as it started the company. I was just curious, was there anybody before him that actually he had heard of the company? So you can ask questions like that, but don't become this quiz box. That's going to be a real problem. All right. So if you are consistently late at a job, that's bad. I can't even say it any other way. But it is very, 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 very bad. Why? Because if that happens, people think that, you're not really, that you're basically saying that they're not important. You're saying they're not important. And, if I have time, I'll get there. And that's going to really annoy an employer. I got to be honest, that is just going to annoy an employer like you cannot believe. Now, you don't maybe mean it to be that way, but I got news for you. It's going to come off that way. That's just a given. I'm sorry. It's a given. And you have to know that there is a delicate balance, ladies and gentlemen, between asking questions, intelligent questions, and asking questions that I would say would be like not appropriate. Okay? Not appropriate questions. And that can obviously be a problem, guys. That can be a problem. And you might say to me, well, John, I don't exactly know what I'm supposed to say or what I'm supposed to do. Well, don't be so petrified with everything that's going on. All right. Listen. And learn from that. I know you're probably saying, what does it matter? It does matter. And you might be saying to me, hey, John, I get it, but this person's like coming from left field. Another big problem besides lateness, I always say before I jump on the next point, if you're on time, you're late. I learned this from a limo company many years ago. And we had booked a flight to go, I think it was to the Bahamas. And I was probably, I think I was in high school. And we were going away with the family to the Bahamas. And the car was coming at 6. So also the doorbell rings at like 5 o'clock. I'm like, guys named Jim, I'm like, Jim, you're early. He's like, oh, no. In my industry, when you're on time, you're late. So I'm always before the time. I'm always early. He was an hour early. I was very impressed with that. And from that moment on, I said, you know what? When I tell people to be somewhere, if they're on time, they're late. So do I come right out and say they're late? No. But if somebody shows up early, I do wind up giving that person a little more preferential treatment because they took the time to make sure that they're going to be here before the meeting. So if you're supposed to be in the office at 9 a.m. in the morning, you better be in the office at 8:50 so you can hang up your coat, do everything you need to do, and then, check in. So right at night. So that's the important thing. Handling feedback. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that they're afraid of feedback. They just don't want feedback. Why? I think they don't want feedback because they might be afraid of what it's going to be. Maybe they can't handle the feedback. Okay? Maybe not. But if the feedback comes with what we call constructive, criticism feedback should be constructive, consistent constructive feedback. I call it CCF. If somebody wants you to get better at something, then they will tell you the things you're doing well, and they will also explain to you what needs to be improved. For example, let's say I have somebody that's in our packing department. Jim, I just want to thank the time that you've done. You're a dedicated worker, and I feel that you're very concerned about doing a great job, and I think that's amazing. And you are definitely very quick in what you're doing, and you really want to do a good job. And I can tell, and everyone else likes getting along with you. And you also are very good at helping other people if they miss something. And as much as I like you, and you really have a great personality, and you seem to be great energy for our company, I don't know if you know this, but in the past month since you've been with us, we've actually had to reship more than 50% of the items that you put out there. Why? Well, because sometimes, more than half of the time, you were actually putting them on the wrong line. They would go off to a truck, that truck would pick them up, and they'd go to a wrong state or a wrong location. They'd come back to us, and we'd have to reship them. So I was just wondering, how do you think we can, make that better? I think you're a great person, but how do we change the behavior so that you actually could put them on the right line? We had a conversation and talked about, do we need to hire more people? No. We need to put a system in place so that the boxes are maybe color coded. And so when they come across with a certain color code in a letter, I can easily see if that color is on the wrong line. Somebody can go grab it before it actually goes out. Because if you just see a box going down the trail, you don't really know if it's correct or not. You just assume. You're not going to read every box. So it was a great idea. Inappropriate questions. This is a great one. So what are inappropriate questions on a job? Well, I'm talking about the interview, the job interviews, where I'm going right now. So 8 inappropriate questions. We're just going to kind of go through this. One is many of our employees are young guys who put in 14 hours a day. Are you up for that kind of challenge? It's inappropriate. A question that digs into your age, race, religion, origin, color, gender, let's say sexual orientation, religious, marital status, are off limits per state and federal recommendations. How do you handle that? While it is against the law for a recruiter or hiring manager to ask your age, job, search, such and such, sex, all that stuff, hiring managers are allowed to ask whether you can handle the workload and the schedule. When responding, you can leave the age part out and discuss how you worked in the past, what type of schedules was involved. Hi, Joe. I think it's great you're applying. I was just wondering, is this a schedule that you'll be able to handle? Have some of your other schedules been like this? What have they been like? Remember, if long hours aren't what you're looking for, you don't have to take this job offer because we have others coming up. Congratulations on returning to the workforce. Given your family, do you need a flexible schedule? Are you planning to have more children? This is inappropriate. A question about family should be no, but also a last naive interviewer, or worse, one that does not value women in the workplace, but still asks them. How to handle it? A polite way to respond to the question about the children is to answer that, be happy to perform all the duties of the position, and it's answering with a non-answer, but this can be more diplomatic than refusing to answer. Attorneys caution against jumping the gun. It's better to say that you're available to work the normal schedule for the job than it is to ask for flexibility this early in the hiring process. So if you need flexibility, ask for that later. But don't be going into the job and asking for something within the first week or first month. Give it 6 months and make sure that you're asking for something you really need. Don't do something just for convenience for yourself. When did you graduate from college? This is inappropriate. This one is a roundabout way that some interviewers try to hone in on a candidate's age. Don't fall for it. If you're asked interview questions about your time of graduation or your age, you have a few options to respond. You can answer the question even though it shouldn't be asked if you think the response won't hinder your chances of getting a job. Another tactic is to deflect the question, say that when you graduated, I don't think that's an area that'll impact my ability to perform the job. Third option is to mention I'd be glad to answer that, but you're not sure why the interviewer needs to know. That could get you out of giving a direct response. At least you'll discover why you were asked and can opt to respond or not. Where are you from? In addition to the question being uncomfortable and completely unnecessary, state and federal laws make discrimination based on citizenship, national origin, arrest, and conviction record and military discharge illegal. How do you handle that? Often the interviewer doesn't realize they're asking something that's illegal and could be perceived as offensive. It's no excuse, but they may think they're just making friendly conversation. The thing of it is, it's important to recognize these things. Note the question. Would you really want to work for them? When it comes to responding to a question like that, probably not. How can my company be better at recruiting people of color? This is inappropriate. And it may be sincere, but it's inappropriate because of the timing. A job interview is not the time for a hiring manager to get input on his or her diversity recruitment strategy. In the moment, it can be the best to try to move through this potential pitfall as gracefully as possible. But afterwards, take the time to reflect on your feelings and whether or not this is someone you really want on your workforce. Tell me about your disability and how has it shaped you? The ADA and the American Disabilities Act makes it illegal for employers to discriminate against qualified job applicants and employees based on their physical or mental disabilities. This includes asking questions about a candidate's disability. How do you handle it if this happens to you? I think what you're trying to get at is how well I'll do in this role. I have to tell you, my past experience in project management leads me to being exemplary by my colleagues. We're a small company filled with strong type A women. Is that going to be a problem for you, sir? Have you worked well with women bosses in the past? Very inappropriate. The question assumes that a man would have a problem working with a woman. This is one that is indicative of a potentially difficult company culture. No matter how the question is worded, it's a tough one. It means that the hiring manager has put you in a category that's different than what they were looking for. We like our employees to look and carry themselves a certain way. Do you think you'll be able to set your financial hardships aside to rise to the occasion of working here? While it's discussed far less than race or gender in the workplace, white and blue-collar workers alike can face socioeconomical discrimination. A very difficult part of the interview process is knowing that we can't see what they have or what they'll be doing. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. If you miss an interview, you're pretty much done. Unless there is a real reason that's like medical or something very severe, I don't grant another interview. And if somebody doesn't show up, I don't even call them to reschedule. I assume that they're just being negligent or being irresponsible, and that's probably not somebody I want on my staff. High turnover. A lot of people, regardless of the age, everybody wants to move through the workforce very quickly because they want to make money quickly. But what they're forgetting is that it's important to share your value before you ask for the right to move up. Ladies and gentlemen, I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It's been a privilege, pleasure, and honor to be with you this fantastic evening. This is Thursday, May 16th, 2024. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. And remember, navigating red lights, it's not for just peeing at a traffic light. All right, guys, have yourself a good one. And feel free to watch many of these. We still have another great episode tomorrow, and we'll sum everything all up very quickly tomorrow at the end. We're going to talk about another important area that you need to know when it comes to red lights in your life. Take care, everyone, and have a good one.